Hello, I'm Joan Landis with you here today, and we're learning today about what I call the talking stick dialogue. This is one of the most important tools that you can learn to increase the empathy and connection in your relationships. Evidently, the First Nations people in America had a concept, some of them had a concept of the talking stick in their councils. And what that would mean is that whoever held the talking stick held the floor. And everybody would listen to that person, and no one would interrupt, no one would leave, nobody would ask questions, no one would fall asleep. And that person could talk and talk and talk and talk until the cows came home and everybody would listen with rapt attention. So we use that concept clinically and we build on it in order to create a new way of communicating between people in a family or a business. And so one of the things that we do is we choose a symbol, something that symbolizes the talking stick. Okay. Now, the only caveat I have is it can't have any sharp edges or be pointed objects, okay, that can be used as weapons. I'm just kidding. But use something, in my office we use a Kleenex box, right? Because it seems like we're always using Kleenexes. But anything, it could be a teddy bear, it could be your cell phone as long as it's totally turned off and it won't even, vibrate. A book, anything could be your talking stick. So that represents whoever holds that has the floor. And so you have two people, the speaker and the listener. The speaker has the talking stick. Okay, so for now, we're going to say that my cell phone is going to be my talking stick. Okay, so if I'm the speaker, I'm holding the talking stick, and I'm speaking to the listener. Now, there are some rules that the speaker has to observe. Okay, here are some. One is you want to keep it about 5 minutes at the most. That's actually pushing it. No more than 5 minutes. 3 would be about right, okay? The next rule is to keep to one subject. So you're talking about one subject, not gunny sacking from things in the past or what Aunt Martha did to you or what, you're not doing that. That makes it impossible for anyone to deal with. So you're staying on one subject, 5 minutes or less. Here's some other rules. We want to go heavy on the I feel statements. I feel, and then fill in an emotion. I feel sad. I feel worried when this happens. I feel scared when this happens. I feel upset. I feel frustrated. I feel angry. I feel lost. I feel jealous, right? And so the I feel statement needs to follow with an emotion word. Okay, this is tricky for a lot of people because a lot of people start with, I feel that you were wrong when you didn't come home on time. Okay, that's not an emotion. Okay, so that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for the person to be able to connect with their primary and secondary emotions, and that's very, very important to instill empathy. But we don't want to veil it as an attack. I feel that you are gone too much. That's not what we're looking for. Okay, so that's one of the trickiest things in this for the speaker is to stay away from, filling in with some kind of an attack or a statement of fact. We want, I feel sad, mad, frustrated, lonely, hurt, ashamed, worthless, unloved. Think of your emotional world, right? This is why we always teach that first. And look on the secondary and primary emotions for hints of what you should be filling it in with, okay? Here's another hint. If you can stay with your primary emotions, that's going to be a lot better than your secondary emotions because then your listener is going to be able to connect with that with compassion instead of feeling attacked, but it's okay. Just do your best. All right. So, I feel statements. I feel emotion. And then the last thing is that we want to stay away from statements that are say you, should, you, never, you, always, okay? Those are not statements that give people psychological breathing room. We feel very cornered when people say to us, you always, you never, you this, you that, right? Okay, so we want to stay from the you, blah, blah, blah. And And so instead, now this is a skill set, right? This is what we are going to be practicing. This is why you sign up for Resilified, so that people can have you practice the skill set. Here's a skill set. To learn to state facts in ways that you don't use the you as very much at all, okay? So think about it. If you yourself are upset about how your spouse parks the car in the garage, okay? The old way would be to say, you never pull the car up far enough. And the car's out, the way you park the car is like screwy, okay? So that is the old way. The new way is to keep the you always or you never out of it and say, when the car is parked crooked like that, or when the car is parked too far away from the front, I can't close the garage door and I feel really frustrated. I feel kind of unloved because I've mentioned this before and it seems like I'm not being heard. Okay? I'm not saying I've said this a million times and you never pay attention, right? I don't go there, right? So it's a skill set to be able to make statements of fact without saying you. And so that would be, if you just had one little action item for the first part of the week, that would be something to do. To make a statement of fact about what somebody else does, but you don't say you always, you never. That instead you just state it as a fact, as if it's like, the car or the budget this month is looking pretty lean and I'm really worried. I feel really worried when that budget is so low like that. And it's like the money's being spent. I don't say you always spend the money. Do you understand that difference? That's a really important key, is to be able to speak in terms of the statement of fact, but you don't put you in it. All right? So there's that. Those are the rules for the speaker. So the speaker has the talking stick, and they talk to the listener, and they're careful to stay under 5 minutes. They're careful to say, I feel an emotion. They're careful to make statements of fact that don't say you always, you never, and those types of things. So that's the speaker's obligation. Now the listener. The listener does not have the talking stick. So the listener is listening for one purpose, and that is to understand. You're not listening to make your case. You're not listening to point out their flaws. You're not listening to think of a really good rebuttal. You're not thinking about why they're wrong and what they're saying. That's not what you're doing. You are listening simply to understand their thinking and their feeling. That's what the listener is doing at that point, okay? If you have to take notes, you're welcome to, but sometimes it can go either way. It can get in the way, or sometimes people like it because that means you're really taking it seriously. So, it's a possibility. A listener could be taking notes, but you certainly are not writing down things you're going to say back, right? That's not why you're doing it. Okay. So that's what the listener is listening for. So here it goes. The speaker is speaking, okay, and they've got their 5 minutes or less with all their stuff, and they're holding this to say, I have the floor. Now, then, when they're done, the speaker says, here's the speaker, and they don't have this yet, okay? They haven't earned it yet. So the speaker says, let me see if I get this right. The listener says, let me see if I get this right. Let me see if I understand you. And then what the listener does is really interesting. We want the listener to speak back and reflect back the ideas and the thoughts and the feelings of the speaker. Okay, here's the tricky thing. As if they were the speaker. What does that mean? That means that the listener is going to reflect it all back with the same pronoun as the speaker. So, for instance, if the speaker says, I come home from work every day, the house is a mess, and I feel kind of disrespected, like my time and energy is not worth anybody else's, and you don't really think about how tired I am. Oh, so I used the you. But, people aren't thinking about how tired I am, and I feel just really, I feel sad and kind of angry about that. So then the listener would say, okay, let me see if I understand you. when I get home from work and when the house is dirty, I feel like people don't care about me. I feel like people are ignoring the fact that I'm tired and I'm just feeling very disrespected, kind of sad, and kind of frustrated and angry. Did I get that right? And then the speaker says, yeah, I think you did a pretty good job. Or if not, they say, well, you forgot this part. And if they forgot a part, then the listener says, okay, let me see if I'll add that. And then there's the part about, my mother-in-law, and it really bugs me when she blah, blah, blah. And then, she comes over and the house is a mess and I feel even worse. And did I get that? And then the speaker says, yeah, I think you did. And then the listener says, is there anything else? Now, at this point, the speaker, we want to keep it really short. Do not go off on a different subject. Don't go off on a long diatribe. You're going to wear out your listener. So maybe one short comment if needed. Yeah, I guess actually along with that, I wish that somebody would make dinner too. Okay, so along with that, you wish that I wish somebody would make dinner too. Yeah, okay. So, all right. And then what the listener can do, if they want extra brownie points, okay, the listener can go to the next step and say, only if it's true. You know what? I appreciate your sharing that with me because I understand you better now. And I can see how you would think that way, or I can see how you'd feel that way. I don't feel that way. I wouldn't feel that way. But I can see how you do. And that really helps me because before I wasn't making sense of it and I couldn't figure it out. But thank you. That really helps me have a better sense of where you're coming from. All right. So that's one half of the talking stick dialogue. You have the speaker and the listener. Now, what happens then is the listener has earned the talking stick. So now the listener is now the speaker, okay? They've got the talking stick, and they say, all right, here's how I feel about it. Sometimes when I'm home and I'm watching TV, I'm really tired from the day and the kids have made a mess, and then, here comes my wife through the door and she's all upset, and it just seems more than I can bear. It just seems like I'm so tired too, and I really don't know what to do, and it makes it even worse when my darling beloved is really upset at me. And sometimes I feel really helpless and hopeless, and I feel really, really sad, like I can never be a great husband to you. I just feel like giving up sometimes. And so he follows the same rules, and then she is now the listener and says, whoa, okay, I appreciate, it's like, okay, let me see if I understand you. And then she uses his same pronouns and says, so when I'm sitting watching TV after work and the kids are running around making a mess, and then my sweetheart comes home through the door and she's upset, I feel like even more sad and hopeless that I can ever be the kind of husband that she needs. And I sometimes get angry about it too. And I don't like that feeling. Is that pretty close? And then he's the speaker and he goes, yeah, that's pretty good. I think you got it. And then this new listener can say, you know what? I appreciate you sharing that with me because I have a better understanding now. I had no idea that was what was going on in your mind. And I don't think I would feel that way, but I can see why you feel that way. I get that. And I really appreciate that. I feel like I have more understanding now. Okay. So that is the talking stick dialogue. That's just the first part of how to de-escalate distressed people, to empathize with them so that they feel very heard and very understood, all right? And it is an amazing thing that when people feel genuinely heard, and genuinely understood, even before you're getting to problem solving, the level of anxiety diminishes. It is almost miraculous. I have seen this over and over and over, right, sitting on the sofa in my office. It's an entirely new way to communicate. You are listening and speaking to be understood and to understand. You aren't attacking, you're just saying, this is how I feel, and the other person says, let me see if I understand how you feel. Did I get it? Yes, you did. Wow. Empathy has happened. Okay. Now again, this is just the first step, but we cannot go to problem solving when people are escalated, afraid, angry, all of those limbic system things, mammalian brain things going on. Simply will not happen. So the talking stick communication, that talking stick dialogue, is absolute genius for de-escalating things and being able to be very heard and very understood, and that in itself is quite miraculous. So, action item this week. First thing, practice making statements of fact without the word you in them. It's tricky, it really is. Practice doing that. And then have your spouse, partner, person watch this video with them and get the printout, because there's a printout about how this all works, and practice. Now, when you practice, you need to make sure it's kind of a low stakes or medium stakes thing. Don't start talking about an affair like this, okay, your very first time. Don't do that, it won't work. So just do something medium, like why the kitchen is always dirty, you know, often dirty, that kind of thing. And just notice if that understanding isn't promoted and that connection is actually fostered. And when you feel connected and safe, then we can move to the next step, which is the expression of needs and problem solving. But that comes later. So have fun with this. You know, choose somebody that you want to work a talking stick dialogue with, something that's not too high stakes. Practice a few times. Tell us how it went. You could even film yourself, videotape yourself, and post it somewhere and link to it. That would be really fun for all of us to see. So good luck with that, and we'll see you soon. Thanks. Bye.